Hello and welcome to the Crunch McDabbles Show. I'm your host, Crunch McDabbles. This is the only show where we design a Pathfinder 2nd Edition character and then destroy him in our crushing, punishing test dungeon. So let's get started. Today we build a half-elf evocation wizard with a shortbow. So why a wizard with a shortbow? The concept behind this design focuses on getting multiple attacks while minimizing the penalties for multiple attacks. See, multiple attack penalties can be pretty rough. The second attack is at -5, which isn't too bad, but the third attack at -10, that's not going to hit very often. Some spells require a spell attack, so they are still considered attacks, which count towards your multiple attack penalties. But certain spells force the opponent to make a save. So there's no attack and therefore no attack penalty. Take the spell Burning Hands. It makes a 15-foot cone of fire, and creatures in the area of effect make a basic reflex save. A basic save means the monsters make a saving throw and either take no damage on a critical success, half damage on a success, full damage on a failure, and double damage on a critical failure. So not only would a spell like this not take a multiple attack penalty, it has the potential to do extra damage if the monsters roll badly. Another thing to consider, though, when casting spells and wielding a weapon at the same time is having a free hand available to cast spells. Each spell has various spell components, and some of these spell components require having a free hand. Material and focus are the two spell components that require the caster to pull out the material component or spell focus with the free hand. It's interesting that the somatic spell component, the one where the caster makes hand gestures, allows something to be in your hand while being performed. Thankfully, most spells are verbal and somatic, so you can cast them while something is in your hand, like a weapon. But this is something to consider when selecting spells or selecting weapons. The bow works great for a caster, even for focus or material spell component spells, because drawing an arrow is part of and included in the attack action, so you always have a free hand to cast spells. Holding a one-handed weapon, similarly, would be a fine way to go for a melee caster. The only place we run into trouble is on a two-handed weapon. Having two hands on a greatsword or crossbow, for example, those are great weapons and they do a lot of damage when you hit with them. Casting a spell that requires a free hand is easy enough because it's a free action to release a hand from a weapon. The problem comes when you want to ready the weapon for another attack. A two-handed weapon requires re-gripping the weapon after you take a hand off it, which uses an interact action. So removing the grip from a weapon is a free action, but readying the weapon again is an action. We don't want to needlessly give up actions in combat, so a caster would have to consider what spells he's going to cast and how it relates to the weapon he prefers. If you're planning on casting a lot of spells with a material or focus spell components, a two-handed weapon might not be ideal. With all this in mind, the idea for this character is that he can shoot his bow and cast a saving throw type of spell each round. I like the cantrip Daze. It has a 60-foot range and attacks the monster's will saving throw, which is a tough save for a lot of monsters. Using Daze, he can keep up a steady damage without burning spell slots and without incurring any 2-hit penalties. This would mean 2 good, high probability attacks in a round. 1 attack without a penalty from the bow, and 1 spell that requires a will save. So you're likely to get at least a couple of points of damage each round. And that's it. That's the concept behind the half-elf evocation wizard with the bow. Let's build him up and see if he's any good. Okay, let's get down to brass dragon tacks and make this guy. Let's start with the fresh character sheet. You gotta love that new character smell. First, ancestry. We want to make the half-elf, so we choose the human ancestry. Human ancestry gives us 8 hit points, size medium, and 25-foot movement speed. And this gives us 2 free ability boosts, so you gotta love that freedom. We'll put the first one into intelligence, and the second one into dexterity. Our heritage comes up next. we choose Half-elf. This gives us the elf trait along with the human trait. The cool thing about being half-elf is we can choose ancestry feats from either human, half-elf, or elf. We choose an ancestry feat and we see that there are lots of feat choices and there are some good feat lines there too. We're going to take the Elven Weapon Familiarity feat, which gives us trained in longbows, shortbows, longswords, and rapiers, as well as weapons with the elf quality. It's a good feat line because as you level you improve with these weapons, and it's a pretty good set of weapons. For background we're going to choose Emissary. I pictured this half-elf to be pretty sharp and elfy, so Emissary seemed cool. It gives us 2 ability boosts. One must be Intelligence or Charisma, and one is a free boost. We take Intelligence, and with the free boost, Dexterity again. For class, we choose Wizard. Wizard gives us +2 to Intelligence and 6 hit points. We're trained in Perception, trained in Fortitude and Reflex saves, and expert in Will. For skills, we get Arcana plus 2 more, plus our Intelligence modifier. For weapons, we have a limited simple weapon list. We are trained in club, crossbow, dagger, staff. Not too good. For defenses, we are trained in unarmored defense, so no armor, and we are trained in spell attacks. It would be cool if the wizard was expert in spell attacks, but, you know, you gotta take what you get, I guess. We choose an arcane school, and we like evocation. Evocation gives us a focus spell and 1 focus point. The focus spell is Force Bolt. It's like a free 1-action magic missile. An unerring dart of force fires from our fingertips. So how cool and how unerring. For our spells, we are really focused on only a couple of spells here. We get 2 spells per day plus 1 that has to be from our evocation school. We take 2 magic missile spells with our 2 spell slots. It's a great spell, has a huge range, doesn't miss, and does decent damage. We're going to want to cast it as a full round action whenever possible to take full advantage of the spell and our limited spell slots. With our free bonus evocation spell, we'll take Burning Hands to fry up some enemies. We take a bunch of small attack spells from our cantrip list, but we're really going to be focused on Daze here because it's a good attack spell and it has a nice range of 60 feet. And it might stun targets, sucking up their actions, so that's going to be our bread and butter spell. For our class feat, there are some cool options. Some cool metamagic choices, and Hands of the Apprentice is a cool feat if we are a universalist, but we're not, so we're going to take the Reach spell in case we need to reach a spell out a little further without moving. For our Arcane Thesis, we choose Metamagical Experimentation, which adds an extra metamagic feat, so we'll take one spell, so we got 2 metamagic feats. We'll also get to make an item a spell focus item. We're going to make our shortbow our spell focus item since we'll always have it in our hands, hopefully. This allows us to get a spell back, which we cast as a free action through our bow. And that's great. Free action, free spell. We add in our 4 free ability boosts. These will be Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Intelligence. To finalize the character, we add our Constitution score into our hit points and end up with 15 hit points and 16 armor class. So that's very soft, but it is a wizard, so what do you expect? We're going to buy some equipment. We buy robes, a spell book. Actually, the spell book was free. A short bow and 20 arrows, and an elven curved blade, because, you know, cool sword. Oh, and of course a component, spell component pouch with some components. We add in a few skills. We had 2 plus our intelligence modifier for 6 bonus skills to choose. We took athletics to make it a little harder to be tripped or grappled, stealth because we have a lot of dexterity, so that might be useful, then survival and some lore and some crafting, and there we go, there's our skills. For saving throws, we finalize at 4 for fortitude, 6 for reflex, and 5 for will. Our spell DC is 17. Our shortbow attacks at +6 and does 1d6 pierce damage plus a d10 damage on crits for deadly. The elven curved blade is there if things go really bad and the wizard wants to melee. It attacks at +6 and does a d8 damage plus 1 slashing damage for our strength. And that's pretty much it. Half-elf wizard evocation specialist with the shortbow. Ready to roll into our test dungeon, so come on, Let's see how he stacks up, because it can't be any worse than the ranger or the cleric. Or can it? The wizard creeps down the ancient temple steps into the darkness below. 4 goblins rummage around a decrepit fountain filled with a noxious green sludge. Let's roll some initiative. Okay, rolling initiative for the wizard. He's trying to stealth, so he's going to roll a stealth check as his initiative. That's going to be a d20 plus his initiative stealth of +6. He rolls a 5. He's only at 11. I don't even think that's going to beat the goblin's perception DC of 12. So he is just an initiative at 11 and spotted. There we go. And then for the goblin warriors, they have a +2 initiative. They're going to roll in a d20 and add 2 to that. They're going to crush it with a 12 + 2 is 14. So they will go first. Here we go again. Goblins getting their chance at glory. Seeing the wizard having knocked a lot of rocks loose coming down the stairs, so he's trying to be quiet, the goblins spring to defense. This goblin in the back is going to first action pull out a shortbow. Second action move up because he is a little bit beyond his range increment or he'd take a penalty on his attack. He's going to move up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 to right there, and then he's going to make his attack. There goes the attack, rolling a d20 +8 to hit versus armor class only 16. 7 + 8 is going to be 15. Hallelujah. We have a miss. And then moving on to this goblin way in the back. He's going to do the same thing. First action, pull out a short bow. Second action, move up to avoid a range penalty. He's got a nice clean shot there. And he's going to let his shot go and try and repel this intruder. Goblin, shortbow, d20 +8. Oh, that's going to critical hit. 28 versus armor class 16. Doesn't matter, it's a crit. It's going to be, so much damage. I don't even want to think about it. 2d6 plus nothing. 8 damage. Yikes. Plus, the shortbow gets a d10 deadly damage, so we'll add that in. Our hero is at 15 -8, 7 hit points remaining. That was the shortest fight of all time. 2 of the 4 goblins went. Hero is down. Unbelievable. First round knockout. Unbelievable.